Hey, everybody. Welcome to Nite Meetup, where we talk about how to get started with HP Omnicept. Thank you all for joining us. I hope you're doing well and enjoying the last days of summer. Nite is a monthly meetup organized by augmentedreality.org, a nonprofit with a mission to advance AR and VR to advance humanity. And we do it by bringing together the best of XR with the best of the XR community. That's you guys. Thanks again for joining. Today, we have a special meetup focused on a new groundbreaking product, the HP Omnicept. We'll have an introduction from HP and partners to its biometric sensors and how to create adaptive VR experiences that are driven by the user's natural response in real time. My name is Ori Bar. I'm the founder of AWE and Super Ventures, a fund dedicated to investing in early stage AR and VR startups. And I have one question for you. Are you ready to get augmented? That's the part where you all shout, yeah.
Yeah.
Works better in the room. By joining Nite, you actually join a global network of AR and VR professionals that meet in over 24 cities right now, all over the world. Currently, most of them are online, so you should definitely check it out in the link above. And since you're now part of this incredible community, let's get social. Follow us on Twitter for the latest news in AR and VR. Definitely check out our YouTube channel for the largest collection of videos about AR and VR, including meetup recordings like this one. And for a weekly digest of the latest in AR and VR every Friday in your inbox, please sign up for our weekly spatial newsletter. We're all missing the good old days of meeting in person. So we are really excited for the big comeback of the XR community this November in Santa Clara, California, and I can't wait to see you all there. AW also has a collection of workshops for XR professionals. You can see some of these workshops here. If interested, check out the dates and the curriculum for each one of them on our website. And of course, we're here today to have a preview for an upcoming workshop by HP about how to get started with the HP Omnicept SDK. It's going to be in September 18 and 19, 3 hours each day. Really recommend to join that. It's a free meetup, so go ahead and sign up on the website, and the HP team will select those who are lucky to join the workshop. This is our speakers for today. We have 6 awesome speakers, but before we get into it, just a little bit about the agenda. We're going to start with Elias, who will kick off with an overview of the HP Omnicept, then hear from some of the HP partners, Pixo and Mimbus, about how they're implementing applications with the Omnicept. And then Lauren and Sergi from HP will tell us what to expect from the workshop in September. Of course, we'll try to leave some room for Q&A, but feel free to share your questions in the chat at any time, and the team will try to answer it in real time. All right, all ready to get started?
Woohoo!
Let's get started. So I'm really excited to introduce the head of global VR partners at HP to give you an introduction to the Omnicept. Give it up for Elias. Stefan, take it away, Elias.
Thank you so much, Ori. I am going to share quickly my slides, dive into it, and then move forward. Some of you might have seen Omnicept or seen this presentation before. If not, enjoy this presentation. We are excited about this technology that is called Omnicept solution. And then what I'm going to talk about 2 things today. Number 1 is a brand new headset that we launched end of April called HP Reverb G2 Omnicept Edition, and then dive into the SDK a little bit. And as Ori said, if you have any questions while I'm talking, please put it in the chat. There is an HP team behind the scenes also can actually answer it, or I can answer it when I'm done. Okay, so let's dive into it. I had business development worldwide for VR, specifically focused on Omnicept Edition. Just to position today's HP VR solution, it is on the left-hand side, we launched Reverb G2, which I'm sure most of you on this call are familiar with it. That's our consumer and business, if you will, headset itself. That was launched last year in October 2022, is doing extremely well, but my focus is on the right-hand side. Omnicept solution is focused on developers and enterprise. So let's talk about the ecosystem. Now, the ecosystem includes on the left-hand side, the brand new headset I'll talk about in a second. In the middle, where HP IP is, the HP Omnicept SDK. SDK is software developer kit. And on the right-hand side, you will see ISV XR applications from partners like Pixo and Membus today. So let me introduce the headset with a short video for you. I'll dive into the specifics of the headset. And as I said, while I'm talking, a question comes to your mind, put it in the chat and we'll answer it. Here we go. Wonderful. So here is the headset exactly like you see it on my screen here. Let's start with what's actually inside the headset itself. The first thing you'll see is eye tracking. We partnered with Toby, the leader in eye tracking. So you'll get eye tracking in the headset. In addition to eye tracking, we also have what we call pupillometry, which is pupil dilation. While you have the headset on, we're not only looking where you're gazing in the headset during the VR experience, we're also looking at your eyes if they're dilated or not. And on top of eye tracking and pupillometry, pupil dilation, we also have a technology called foveated rendering, part of that headset itself. Foveated rendering is going to help this headset, which is driven by a PC. This is a tethered solution. As you can see, there is a cable at the bottom of the screen here that is connected to a workstation style with a decent GPU, graphical processor unit. Foveated rendering is going to help the GPU not to actually function at 100% and so on and so forth. It will alleviate some of the processing from the GPU for that technology. So basically, when you put the headsets on, and we're following your gaze and eye tracking, we're going to focus on where you're looking, and the GPU is going to give power to that specific area only. So if you Google foveated rendering, there is a lot of articles on it. Tracking, pupillometry, pupil dilation, foveated rendering is also part of this headset. The next one on the slide is heart rate. Heart rate is PPG pulse sensor. If you take a look at the headset inside, when you put it on your face, the sensor is actually touching your forehead and sensing your pulse every few seconds. And we're going to talk about the SDK that captures all of these sensory and makes sense of it. And for the first time in the industry, you will see or you will hear about cognitive load insight, right? So eye tracking, pupillometry, foveated rendering, and then PPG pulse rate sensor as well. Now, if you look carefully at the headset itself, you'll see two eyes looking at you. These are RGB tracking cameras. We have two more on the sides, right and left, total of 4 cameras for tracking. And then we've added a face camera at the bottom of the headset. So when you put the goggles on, that face camera, which is an HP camera capable of 3D images, is looking at the bottom half of your face. So we can see your eyes and your upper face in the 4 cameras there. And then also we're able to see the bottom half of your face. Eventually you're going to develop applications around maybe collaboration where you can create real-time avatars. Now we're going to extend that technology to what we call expression. Expression is a technology where you're going to be able to know, are you smiling? Are you frowning? Are you happy? Are you in pain? Are you angry? And all of that stuff. So for those developers listening to me on this call, that is the technology available for you through the SDK and through the sensories of the headset that we brought to market end of April this year. On right and left, you see speakers that are coming down. They are not touching your ears, 10 millimeters from your ears, and capable of HP spatial audio. Right and left, you see enhanced controllers as well. If you have any questions on this headset, all the sensories built in, please put it in the chat. I'm going to move, I'm just worried about the time. So, and I apologize if I am actually speaking very fast. Okay. So we believe eye tracking, eye gaze, pupillometry, and foveated rendering are going to amplify training. And training is a huge segment, right? With VR training, whether you're training a pilot to fly a plane, whether you're training a surgeon doing surgery, whether you're training a soldier in the field, a fireman or firewoman in the field, that the retention is absolutely tremendous. And I'm sure Logan listening to this is going to put some data in the chat that some studies have been done between doing training in VR or training in 2D or computer-based training, and you'll see some of the retention is 5x in VR. So that's really amazing for companies that implemented VR solutions and also maybe thinking, going through the journey of implementing VR. Face camera, as I mentioned, it's not only to look at the bottom half of your face for real-time avatars. We're gonna go beyond to enjoy real human interactions. Smiling, frowning, happy, sad, all of that is gonna be part of the SDK from HP Omnicept SDK. Heart rate, I talked about that. Many healthcare and wellness companies are going to find this very interesting. So to wrap up the headset itself, eye tracking, heart rate, pupillometry, foveated rendering, face camera, plus we added a ratcheting headband at the back of the headset for perfect fit. The visual experience, the lens resolution is like the Reverb G2, is 2160 per eye, so you get 4K on the headset itself. Now, let me move to the HP SDK. That's where our IP, SDK Software Developer Kit, we've been developing this for the last couple of years. That actually is married to the headset itself. So all these sensories work with this SDK 100%, and then developers will take an advantage through the SDK with all the sensories and innovate around that technology. Another cool video, I will introduce you to the SDK, and I'll talk about cognitive load quickly, and I'll give it to Scott and Brendan to talk about their solution.
Introducing HP Omnicept, an intelligent XR platform that completely changes the dynamic of how humans interact with technology. Sensors in the headset monitor muscle movement, heart rate, pupil size, and gaze to capture the levels of brain power exerted. Now, users' natural responses drive their experiences in the moment. By combining sensor data with machine learning, software developers get real-time insights to tailor XR experiences for faster and better outcomes. Across industries, HP Omnicept is powering advanced XR solutions that can adapt to each user. Redefining how we train, improve well-being, create, and collaborate. HP Omnicept-powered apps help ensure the capture and transfer of data comply with GDPR and keep user data confidential. Groundbreaking hardware meets transformative software. This is HP Omnicept, a revolution in XR.
Excellent. So the first insight we're introducing through the SDK with all the sensories I talked about is called Cognitive Load Insight. This is a work by HP Labs. So cognitive load is gonna help you in those three things you see on the screen. Number one, you're gonna be able to predict the amount of working memory consumed while that person in that VR headset undergoing the experience in VR. Number two, the performance. It's an indicator of user engagement based on that amount of brain power put that towards that task. And last but not least is the expertise, how well the learner is doing that VR application or VR experience and understands the content. So on the left-hand side at the bottom, you'll see data coming from the headset going into a machine learning and artificial intelligence engine that will actually give you a prediction on that cognitive load. Developers, you will see some of the demos that Pixo and members are going to show you, will show you the cognitive load of that person in that VR experience, where they're at. We will, they'll show you where it's at from 0 to 100. Is the person overwhelmed, touching the 100%, or are they not paying attention, which is towards the 0, or they're maybe in the middle that they're doing great, what we call a Goldilocks zone. So this is the first implementation of cognitive load insight and the prediction while someone in the VR application. 2 more insights we're going to bring to market afterwards as an SDK upgrade is expressions and then also emotions. I talked about expression earlier, and then emotion will be a capturing emotional reactions from stress to excitement, right? I am going to put all of these important links in the chat, right? And I thank you for listening to me. And now I'm going to send it to Scott Oliviero, Chief Product Officer from Pixo, and Brandon Cottingham, Lead Developer from Pixo. And then after that, from members, we'll have Kevin show you a demo as well. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, everybody, and thanks for having us. My name is Scott Oliverio. I'm the Chief Product Officer, and I'm joined by Brandon Cottingham, our lead Unreal developer here at Pixo. At Pixo, we not only build custom XR experiences, we also have a management and distribution platform for enterprises. So a way to manage and make sure that the experiences are getting to the headset for the right person at the right time to see it. So we've been fortunate to be working with HP. It goes back, I've been with the company 2 years, and I think my first conversation with the company was with HP on all this new technology. So we've been involved since the early days, early hardware, early software. We've been working with Logan and Lauren for quite some time. And we knew early on with the experiences that we create, which are, game-changing experiences that put you in a situation of real life, mission-critical, life-threatening situations. And these were successful modules just to be able to go through. When we were introduced to Omnicept and the headset and the features, we saw a tremendous opportunity that the content that we're creating today to be able to now extend to heart rate, eye gaze, and cognitive load would be super impactful. And one of the videos that we're going to show you today is how we implemented it within fall protection, which is one of our modules that is completely related to training at heights. And what's really interesting is I don't like heights myself, and putting the headset on and actually going through this experience, even though I was perfectly safe in my living room or in the office, it felt like I was 30 stories up on a building. When we were able to implement the cognitive load and heart rate and eye gaze, it was just really interesting to see how your body reacts to that situation, especially with those types of analytics. So early on, we were able to do some sample integration with just some test modules. And then most recently, as the newer release of the software came out and the newer release of the hardware, Brendan, our lead developer, was able to not only experience the SDK through a couple versions, but also the headset. And I would like him to talk about, from a developer's perspective, how easy and seamless it was to take an existing module that we've been actually using with our customers for quite a few years now and actually implement the Omnicept SDK and to get it fully functioning. After Brendan goes through his explanation, I do have a video where we have implemented it into fall protection, where you'll be able to see essentially in real time the cognitive load, heart rate, and eye gaze coming through as the person who was actually going through that experience. So you'll be able to see the dynamics of how it's changing and what the experience is like from the user perspective. So I'd like to introduce Brendan. Brendan's been with Pixo for the last 2.5 years. He's our lead developer, an expert in Unreal, and Brendan was able to take all of the features of the software and integrate it. So I'd like to introduce Brendan, and Brendan, if you could provide an overview of your experience, would be great.
Yeah, so as Scott said, our first experience integrating Omnicept into a real module was fall protection, which you're going to see shortly. And fall protection is a multi-year old module, so it's not something that we were in active development on. And that's important because the SDK allowed us to use all of our old code that we weren't in active development on. We didn't have to mold our code to fit the SDK. All I did was I got the SDK from the developer site and put the plugin into the Unreal project, and then I hooked onto each of the three delegates that return all of the cognitive load, the heart rate, and the eye gaze, and that was it. And I plugged that information into a widget, and I displayed it. And it's extremely simple, very easy to implement. And there were a few points where I got a little hung up, and I have to thank Lauren and Sergi, specifically the HP support team, when I did get hung up and realized that it was a dumb mistake on my part. The HP support team was there every step of the way to make sure that that everything went smoothly. But if if I didn't make those dumb mistakes, the SDK is very, very easy to implement, and very, very you can tailor your it tailors its code to your stuff, not the other way around. So it's very, very easy to make it work with your stuff without altering your things too much.
Thanks, Brendan. I appreciate it. And even though we've been able to integrate it, within fall protection, we have an extensive library of titles that have been created and that are in development, and then of course will be developed. So being able to not only implement these features, so when you're going through the experience, you can actually see in real time, but also being able to capture the data of at a specific point in time or during the entire session. So then that data could be captured during that session, it could be saved, and can actually be reported out on. So part of our Apex product is we have a web-based portion of our product that does have reporting. So all of our modules capture critical event and session data today. And it, depending on the module, depends on the type of data we capture. And a lot of it has to do with training and scoring to ensure that if an employee goes through training, we can monitor how many events they went through, how many events did they get right out of the total possible, and what was the score generated, and was it a pass or failing score? It's really important for companies to be able to have that data to integrate into their learning management systems. If you think about how critical that data is, and then append the cognitive load, heart rate, and eye gaze to that data, it opens up a completely different world of not only being able to identify if a particular user is even set out to actually handle a job of this sort. So if a person puts a headset on for fall protection and realizes, potentially based on heart rate and cognitive load, that they could be putting themselves in a dangerous situation, you may be able to determine if a person set out for a role well before you put them on a beam 50 stories up above a building. So the data will be extremely critical to be able to analyze, not only to help us build content better in the future, but also really to truly determine, the aptitude of certain folks at certain times. So we look forward to implementing the SDK in many of our other modules, which really range from heights training to electrical arc flash to lockout, tag out, confined space, all sorts of different scenarios where this information would be extremely valuable. So like Brendan and I said, this is fall protection. So this is a recording from within the headset itself that we recorded, and then obviously we did some editing. I'll hit play here. So again, fall protection, really one of our oldest modules and probably one of the most popular. What this does is it walks a user through a couple steps. One, the first thing you need to do is you need to understand how everything is working, from a controller perspective. So we guide the user through how to use everything, how to control their hands. And you can see now with the overhead display, we've integrated heart rate, cognitive load, and eye gaze. So all of that is happening in real time. The first step is the user or the worker has to actually pick their PPE. So they have the ability here to go through their harnesses, discard harnesses that may be damaged or not the correct ones. So this way, this really puts the evaluation into the employee's hands. At the same time, they also need to choose their carabiner or their lanyard to ensure that it's not damaged and that it is connected properly. So again, you have the ability to go through, discard the lanyards that you feel may be damaged, and there are purposely damaged lanyards because not everything would be a perfect scenario. Once they choose the proper PPE, they're now going to be escorted to a top of a building where they actually have to go through some maneuvers and do some testing or actually help out a coworker. So it gets very, very interesting as I was just going to speed it up, the video up here a little bit, is that as you start entering the elevator and going up, you would most likely see a person's heart rate and cognitive load really being affected. So now we're 30 stories above, and although a video, you can't really get that full feeling. When you look over the edge, there's every indication that you are 30 stories above. So it is really a real life situation. And all during this time, you can see that heart rate and cognitive load and eye gaze have been directly being affected by what's going on. One of the key things to note here is that in all of our modules, this one in particular, the platform here is always set to fall and collapse. So no matter what you do, you will always run into this situation. The difference is whether or not your personal protection equipment holds you and saves your life, or whether it doesn't hold you and unfortunately you would fall. So here you can see the platform collapsed and we're dangling, 30 stories above the city, and but you didn't die, which is ultimately the goal. And then at the end, we're able to give you all of the results and tell you what you did right or what you did wrong. So again, because we probably didn't see drastic increases in heart rate and cognitive load, just for the mere fact that I myself was in headset and I'd actually gone through this so many times that I was probably anticipating it coming. But just a great example of how we integrated it into existing module where that type of data would be extremely valuable and extremely critical, for the well-being of that person.
Thank you, Scott. And I think now we want to hear from members. Kevin, take it away.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having us here. So like Brendan talked about, it was fairly easy to integrate Omnicept SDK. You just have to go on the developers portal, log in, get the Unity package. In our case, we use Unity, and I can tell you that's quite the same as the Unreal Engine. It was fairly easy to use the delegates to integrate the SDK without editing most of your code. So there it is. I wanted to talk about what we are doing here at Nimbus, because I'm working as a lead developer for Nimbus. Nimbus is a company that aims to offer better vocational training tools in the forms of XR simulators. And we have an intuitive and pedagogical tool we call Vulkan. It is kind of like, it is sort of an LMS, but it is connectable to any XR simulators. That's our goal. And apart from managing classes, trainees, and training path, Vulkan tracks in real time what is happening during simulations And as it is now, exercise results are reported to Vulkan, and the trainers and trainees can check the results details online on the dashboard. And the display involves stuff like global score for an exercise run, its duration, some specific skill scores, the timeline of the trainee's course of actions. And as you can guess, we strive to improve Vulkan as it is not nearly as complete as we want it to be. Our goal is to make it the ultimate pedagogical tool for XR training. And in this line of thinking, we want to add learning analytics to Vulkan to better train the people who will be using XR simulators. We want Vulkan to suggest personalized training path based on what is occurring in the simulation for a given trainee. We can do that by analyzing a trainee's results after an exercise is finished, but we can also do that in real time by adjusting the difficulty. And that's where Omnicept intervened by empowering Vulkan. I think Omnicept offers a panel of data in which we can find eye tracking, biometric, heart rate, but above all, cognitive load. And Vulkan is really hungry for this kind of data, which can enhance the learning analytics cycle. Like cognitive load, for example, has a deep relationship with performance, like Elias told before. We measure performance in our simulators, and to ensure we do it well, for instance, we can use cognitive load as a reference. It should not be too high as the performance would be impaired, but it should not be too low as it means the trainee is not focused enough on or finds the tasks so easy that it's becoming boring. That's what they talked about with the Goldilocks zone. Using this pattern, we are developing a way for Vulkan to increase or decrease difficulty of an exercise in real time during the simulation. And for example, if our system realizes that the trainee is experiencing a very high cognitive load and that the performance is poor, the system will either reduce the difficulty of the exercise by making the task more simple or give a hint so the trainee will carry on its progress. The same can be true in the other case, like if there is a low cognitive load, either the trainee is too bored or the trainee is experiencing difficulty in maintaining focus. That is to say, we at Nimbus were really eager to go further in analyzing the trainee behaviors. We even have a doctoral student in psychology working full-time to improve our pedagogical analysis. And we were actually working on implementing a training skill we call resilience. And data like heart rate and cognitive load and such are what Vulkan desperately needed to be as accurate as it could be with this sort of skill. I think using Omnicept is really benefiting to Vulkan and our simulators, and I'm sure our customers, which mainly are schools, will see the benefits it brings. In my opinion, it's very important to work with cutting-edge technology because things are moving really fast, and in education, it is more important than ever to work with the latest technology available so the future generation can go even further. I like the idea that with Omnicept we can track stuff that is kind of subconscious, stuff we do not know by ourselves, like cognitive load, giving a number to it. It's nice that we can analyze like what the user is focusing on, at which step the simulation is he stressed. According to me, HP Omnicept is really the latest innovation in the head-mounted display market. It works really well. The face cam is a nice addition to the other traditional sensors, and also working with Omnicept support. And by that, I mean Sergi, who is really reactive and helpful, has been blissful. And we are really excited for the upcoming updates with expression and emotions. I wanted to show you a video because 1,000 words leaves not the same deep impression as a single did. So I'm gonna show you my screen. that's it.
Thank you very much, Kevin. So next, we want to hear from the HP team about the upcoming free workshop about the Omnicep SDK. And to that end, we have two of the best folks to give you an introduction. Give it up for the XR developer advocate at HP, Lauren Domingo, and Sergi Tortosa. Take it away.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lauren Domingo. I am an XR developer advocate in Colorado. And I'll let Sergi say hello as well.
Hello, I'm Sergi. I'm a developer advocate located in Barcelona.
Awesome. So we're just going to kind of talk about what we're going to do next month, but I want to leave time for questions for HP or for our ISVs who joined us today with their cool products. So I'll just be quick, but we do have a course coming up in mid-September, the 18th and 19th, like already mentioned earlier. It's 3 hours a day. I have the times here in Eastern Standard Time, so 12 to 3 in the afternoon. So there'll be myself and Sergi there. We will also have our cognitive neuroscientist, Dr. Erica Sagel. So she's on the HP Labs team working with other PhDs on some of that data that we were talking about in chat for those interested, the research that goes into cognitive load, the data that went into it, how it can be used. So she will be there and she'll be even more adept at answering your questions on that, but we can in the meantime, as we have been in chat. So a little bit of what we're going to go over in those 2 days. So that first day, we'll go more into depth on what is Omnicept and why is it so powerful. So more use cases, different ways it's been used, how you can access those sensors. So we talked about cognitive load, but like you saw in the implementations, there's heart rate, there's eye gaze, and how that can be used in training and other different experiences on top of training. And then we'll kind of have live, how do I access it? What are the code calls? You know, in integrating it in Unity. And this class upcoming, we're going to focus on Unity, even though we have an Unreal plugin as well for Omnicept, like Pixo had implemented. And then that second day, we'll have Erica come in, and she will give us more of the what is cognitive load from the real creators of Omnicept, the labs people. And then we'll have how can it be applied in VR. So how do you use cognitive load in a VR? So different simulations. And then you guys will come up with the new breakthrough ideas of how to use Omnicept and which one should you get started with. So we'll have breakouts, and Erica will hear your ideas and give feedback to kind of tune in onto what you should start working on and then start working into development. So that'll be the 2 days in September. And so like Ori had mentioned earlier, there is a application form to fill out, and we will review the applications and let you guys know in early September if you've been selected. But we're really looking forward to it, and there's a lot of awesome ideas out there. So I can't wait to hear from you guys. And I think there's some links in the chat probably being populated for this, as well as the developers portal, hp.io/Omnicept is the developers portal where you get the SDK, where there's documentation. You'll also see that there's also probably hp.com/Omnicept, which is where you can order the headset. We'll mention that you don't need the headset to take this class, that there is a hardware simulator that comes with the SDK so that you could be sending events like you had a headset, so that you could develop a project and test it out before you get your headset.
All right, fantastic. Thank you, Lauren. Folks, if you have questions about the Omnicept or about the workshop, this is the time. Feel free to share it in the chat, or if it requires you to come up on video, that's also possible. Here we have a first question from Juan. Can the SDK accept Toby as a substitute eye input?
So using like the Toby calls today is perhaps the question that you're asking. We do, so it is a Toby eye tracker in our headset, but we do have Omnicept specific calls to the eye to get eye gaze, but it's very similar to what you've probably been looking at.
So I have a question, Lauren. What game engines are supported with the Omnicept?
So we support Unity and Unreal. Right now, when you download the SDK, I think it's 4.2.6 and 4.2.5, but if you have an earlier version, we can help you if you can't get it working there. And then we will continue to support as we release like the latest version of Unreal.
We'll also mention that you have support for raw C++ and C#. So if you are having your own engine, it's a chance that you can start using Omnicep 2 with the C++ SDK or the C#, depending on what you're looking for.
And there's another question about the need for the hardware. If I don't have it, can I still use the SDK, test it?
Yeah, so there is a hardware simulator that comes with the SDK, and this is just a way to test, like if you wanted your app to respond to elevated heart rate, you would change the heart rate and send that event, and that sensor event gets sent to your game engine. And so you could just use, same thing with cognitive load and your eye gaze. That's what you could use in the meantime while you're testing out before you have a headset. This is the hardware simulator.
All right, fantastic. A question from Joel. Do you support hand tracking?
I can take this one. So we are not supporting access to the front cameras, and therefore we are not supporting like custom implementation for hand tracking. And Mixed Reality doesn't offer any hand tracking on the VR side. So the answer is no for that. But we'll note that as feedback. Thank you for that.
And we have a question from Yahir, whether you could use the Oculus Rift as a substitute.
For taking the course we will mostly use OpenXR. So I guess like you are fine with Rift plus the simulator for taking the course. That's totally okay. We'll be targeting OpenXR, so we kind of like get the broadest number of headsets that we can run on the applications on the course.
All right. I have a question on the use cases. It seems like so far what we're seeing mostly is training and simulation, but I'm wondering, question for the partners here and to the HP team, if you've seen other use cases where the Omnicep can really be extremely helpful and kind of change how people have been doing VR before.
So the question, what other ways to use Omnicep cognitive load other than training? So training is really what we're focused on because it's really a nice one-to-one match with cognitive load. But you can imagine using like heart rate for a wellness app, and making sure if you want to do meditation apps or something to calm someone down in like a sensory room. We've seen use cases of that using heart rate. I think there are a lot of interesting ways it could be used in gaming as well. I think that people have shared ideas on using it for horror games, or you can light things up with your eye gaze. But I don't know if Elias or Logan has any other, or Sergio, or anyone on the call, have any other ideas that you've heard of about using Omnicept?
Yeah, absolutely. We also use it in some medical healthcare institution for, it's an amazing how they use it. They use it for pain reduction for cancer patients. So that's a very specific use case. But basically, they developed a 4K VR application that helps cancer patients when they're going through chemo is to reduce the pain, and that's phenomenal. We're waiting for the use case and the results on, you use that experience, what happens afterwards. So that's another use case. Like you said, Ori, we use it in training, but training is very like a big umbrella, right? Yeah. There are lots of training. You can be training soldiers in the field, right? You could be training a surgeon. You could be training a pilot. So there are lots and lots of ideas around training. And the biggest training we see for commercial enterprise is learning and development and collaboration, right? That's where Omnicep is handy, and innovative technology with all the sensories we showed, and specifically cognitive load, then expression and emotion coming after that, right? So the human nature or the human condition is going to be the focus of what we do today and what we're going to do in the future.
Thank you, Elias. And I remember from a few years back, the Empathetic Lab headed by Mark Billinghurst has been doing a lot of research on these kind of things. And in the past, they had to kind of kludge together a bunch of sensors and things, but they demonstrated a lot of value from remote collaboration using the biometric data. So when you see how the person that you're guiding to do a certain task is behaving, kind of what they're feeling, what their emotions or, heart rate, things like that, it enhances the collaboration significantly and gets better results. So I'm wondering if you're also seeing kind of that. I guess it's sort of a remote training, but more focused on guiding someone to do a task remotely.
Yeah, I mean, maybe not remotely, but recently Columbia University did a study on doing a classroom via Zoom like this or via face-to-face versus a VR experience in things like Altspace or Engage or what have you. And I tell you, the results are going to be public. When you see the results from students, right, it is absolutely amazing. Retention is high. Fun is high, right? They prefer to do VR. This professor that did the presentation or to us or the study is a nuclear biology. So what he does is brings 3D modules of a molecule, and people can spin it around and go inside and do a better visual on that course. So it was phenomenal, the results that they came up with, and I'm hoping we can they can share it publicly sooner than later, and people can find it online. That was phenomenal for us to see. And then also, Logan put somewhere in the chat, PwC did a study on retention on training as well. That's a good study to look at as well.
Michael Owen is asking if you could post the Columbia study link in the chat.
We don't have it yet, Michael, but once we have it, I'm not sure how we can get it to the people on this, Ori, that joined.
If they sign up for the Omnicept SDK, then they would be aware of updates that are bigger updates. We would send emails out on them, but maybe there's another way. Sorry, I didn't want to cut anyone off. But I would say sign up for Omnicep and you'll get good updates like that.
I think Carter Fensler asked a question earlier. So basically your question about existing blend shapes, right? We probably, we're still, as I told you, expression is a forward thinking and not available yet today, maybe end of this year, beginning of next year. So our current plan is to drive 51 existing blend shapes plus, right? I'm just reading you from the answer I got from our technical folks, right? A handful of macro expressions that are not part of the blend shape list, right? So I don't know if that answered your questions or not, Carter.
There was a question from Julian. So he's asking, if you're not a developer, but interested in the details of how it would work, is it possible to join the workshop as well? Or maybe there are some future workshops where people can join not as a developer, just kind of see the metrics and more details about how they can leverage for psychology-related researchers.
I think definitely we'll keep doing more workshops and keep talking about Omnicep. So I guess like this workshop is mainly, we will take some heavy hands-on on development. But like if you are happy to listen and talk about development, feel free to apply, because there will be also something interesting about like 1-2 hours of the course may be helpful for you. So it's up to you. You are kind of like warned that we'll have some heavy development there, but everyone is welcome.
Rob, I think you asked the question as well. All the examples all seem to be fully integrated into the experience. Is there a standalone heart rate, cognitive load, gaze monitor to record this data with an existing non-modified project? Hey, Rob, you want to come off and then maybe explain? Are you looking for other than the sensors in the headset?
No, what I'm wondering is is there a standalone system that like could monitor, like if I just went into a random game, whether it could monitor all that stuff and give me, give me that information?
We have right now a quite simple version that's kind of like 2D display that you can use as a dashboard. And what we do internally, we have played like third-party applications with the dashboard open, right? And we overlay them on a video. So we can see like real time, after like reviewing the video, we can see real time, like what was the data of Omnicep versus what was like happening on the application. We will be coming soon with another, not sample, but kind of like demo that's overlay, that kind of be like expanding this feature set to be like more user-friendly. So kind of, I will point you to the display. I'll try that, and if you find helpful, I'll reach us out on ticketing, like on the support, and we can share with you maybe like something about overlay and so on and so forth. So
we have one question from Frank is about colleges and universities that are using it currently. Any references you can share?
Yeah, definitely. As I said, Columbia is also taking a look at it, and there are many others, like Yale is looking at it as well, University of Central Florida. I mean, the list goes on and on, right? We don't have Cecile here to talk about Europeans, Maybe Sergi, if you're aware of one, just shout it out. So lots of universities are taking a look at specifically, it is not a standard headset. It goes beyond just the headset itself and resolution. It's the sensories built in, is what we do with that data in the SDK and giving you cognitive load to start with, later on expression and emotion. So I think it opens up different ideas for developers or customers to look at in many different use cases, but definitely lots of universities are looking at it for sure.
All right, that's all the time we have for today. So if you liked what you heard about the Omnicept and you want to learn more as a developer, definitely check out this free workshop, September 18 to 19. It's going to be 3 hours each day, and you can sign up on the workshop page. We talked about the kind of the overview. We saw some examples from Pixo and Mimbus, and we also covered some questions. So what I want to do now is thank our fantastic speakers today, starting with Elias. Awesome job. Thank you very much for joining, and the HP team with Lauren and Sergi. And many thanks to Scott Olivero and Brendan from Pixo VR, as well as Kevin Nguyen from Mimbus. You're doing some awesome stuff. We want to see all of you developers in the audience doing some cool stuff with the Omnicept. So let's see it next time. Thanks very much for joining, everybody.